Peace and power to you. I'm back. Welcome back to my YouTube family. Welcome to my new subscribers. I see y'all. What I'm doing tonight, gonna be with y'all not for a long time, but I have to start going over stuff that I write down. Sometimes I don't get around to it. And then that's information that could be researched and put away. I have notes and sticky notes all over my desk. So what we're gonna do right now is I'm gonna look up first Saint Jerome. And yeah, we're just gonna jump into it. As I said, I gotta learn this language, so I have to do some flashcards because I need to be looking at this stuff more often. Saint Jerome. Latin, Eusebius, Sophronius, Hieronymus, Greek, okay. C, this is 27th century, March 347 through 30, September 420. He was a priest, confessor, a theologian, and a historian. He was born at Stridon, a village near Emona on the border of Dalmatia and Pannonia, then part of the northeastern Italy. He is best known for his translation of most of the Bible into Latin, the translation that became known as the Vulgate, and his commentaries on the Gospel. His list of writings is extensive. The protege of Pope Damascus I, who died December of 384. Jerome was known for his teachings on Christian moral life, especially to those living in a cosmopolitan center such as Rome. In many cases, he focused his attention to the lives of women and identified how a woman devoted to Jesus should live her life. This focus stemmed from his close patron relationships with several prominent female ascetics who were members of affluent senatorial families. He is recognized as a saint and a doctor of the Church by the Roman Catholic Church, the Eastern Orthodox Church, the Lutheran Church, and the Anglican Communion. His feast day is September 30. Excuse me, sorry. I should have put on my socks. So number one, we know that he has influenced how women should conduct themselves in the church. The first question should be, who told Saint Jerome, of, where was he from? Anyway, he was born at Stridon around 347 AD, and Stridon was a town in the Roman province of Dalmatia, the town known as the birthplace of Saint Jerome. From Stridon also came Dominus of Stridon, a bishop who took part in the first council of Nicaea. Yeah, this stuff is kind of crazy. The first council of Nicaea was a council of Christian bishops convened in the Bithynian city of Nicaea, now Iznik, Bursa province, Turkey. So this is in Turkey, by the Roman Emperor Constantine the First in AD 325. Constantine the first organized the council along the lines of the Roman Senate and presided over it, but did not cast any official vote. The Ecumenical Council was the first effort to attain a consensus in the church through an assembly representing all Christendom. Hosius of Corduba, who was probably one of the papal bulls. We already went over this stuff. The papal legates may have presided over its deliberations. And this is the people who captured us, the Saracens. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, look up the papal bulls. This was a contract sent out to this place to enslave the Aborigine of this land, by the popes. That's who usually, sends them out. Anyway, so we know they may have presided over its deliberations. Its main accomplishments were settlement of the Christological issue of the divine nature of God the Son and his relationship to God the Father, the construction of the first part of the Nicene Creed establishing uniform observance of the date of Easter, and promulgation of early canon law. First Council of Nicaea was the first ecumenical council of the church. Most significantly, it resulted in the first uniform Christian doctrine called the Nicene Creed. With the creation of the creed, a precedent was established for subsequent local and regional councils of bishops, synods, to create statements of belief and canons of doctrinal orthodoxy, the intent being to define unity of beliefs for the whole of the Christendom. So their intent being, this is what they're supposed to be doing, to define unity of beliefs for Christendom. It's derived from Greek. Ecumenical means worldwide, but generally is assumed to be limited to the known inhabited earth. And that's in Danker 2000, page 699 to 670. And at this time in history, history is synonymous with the Roman Empire. The earliest extant uses of the term or a council or Eusebius' Life of Constantine. That's found in Life of Constantine 3.6 around 338, which states he convoked an ecumenical council, ancient Greek, and the letter in 382 to Pope Damasus I and the Latin bishops from the First Council of Constantinople. One purpose of the council was to resolve disagreements arising from within the Church of Alexandria over the nature of the Son in his relationship to the Father, in particular, whether the Son had been begotten by the Father from his own being and therefore having no beginning, or else created out of nothing and therefore having a beginning. Saint Alexander of Alexandria and Athanasius took the first position. The popular presbyter Arius, from whom the term Arianism comes, took the second. The council decided against the Arians. Why do the Arians keep coming up? Go over to the Education Center. He went over the Arians. Overwhelmingly of the estimated 250 through 318 attendees, all but two agreed to sign the creed, and these two, along with Arius, were banished to Illyria. So they got banished for not agreeing to sign. And another result of the council was an agreement on when to celebrate Easter. The the most important feast of the ecclesiastical calendar, decreed in an epistle to the Church of Alexandria, in which it simply stated, "We also sing the good news of the settlement concerning the Holy Pasch, namely, that in answer to your prayers, this question also has been resolved. All the brethren in the East who have hither followed the Jewish practice will henceforth observe the custom of the Romans, and of yourselves, and of all of us who from ancient times have kept Easter together with you." So this was a holiday they already had been celebrating. And then they assigned it. Jesus is, what did he do? He rose again, Good Friday and all that good stuff. These people crazy. Y'all, we are looking for Jesus. And I picked up an index card that had been laying on my desk probably months. And this is what we find out. This is what they decided in the Council of Nicaea. Y'all go to Wikipedia before it's erased and check this information out. I have to go back so I can move forward. Now, we found out what striding was. There we go, all the way back out. We looked up Saint Jerome. Okay. So now, everything is let's just go. Francis Bacon, first Viscount St. Alban, whatever that means, January 22nd, 1561 through April 9, 1626, was an English philosopher, statesman, scientist, jurist, orator, and author. He served both as Attorney General and as Lord Chancellor of England. After his death, he remained extremely influential through his works, especially as philosophical. And y'all, if y'all have a problem with me trying to pronounce these words, y'all know y'all can stop the video and go somewhere else. No shade, no tea. I'm just trying to pronounce it for me. Philosophical. I'm going to move forward. Advocate and practitioner of the scientific method during the scientific revolution. Bacon has been called the father of empiricism. His works, well, let's just look that up. We can't just, because I don't know what it is. Copy. And we're going to go to the etymology. This word is from the 1650s in the medical sense, from empiric or plusism, later in general sense of reliance on direct observation rather than theory, especially an undue reliance on mere individual experience in reference to a philosophical doctrine which regards experience as the only source of knowledge, from 1796. Were I obliged to give a short name to the attitude in question, I should call it that of radical empiricism. In spite of the fact that such brief nicknames are nowhere more misleading than in philosophy. So it's philosophical. Okay. I say empiricism because it is contented to regard its most assured conclusions concerning matters of fact as a hypothesis liable to modification in the course of future experience. And I say radical because it treats the doctrine of monism itself as an hypothesis. And unlike so much of the halfway empiricism that is current under the name of positivism or agnosticism or scientific naturalism, It does not dogmatically affirm monism as something with which all experience has got to square. The difference between monism and pluralism I don't know why my tongue plays it today. The hell going on? Anyway, it's perhaps the most pregnant of all the differences in philosophy. William James prefaced to the sentiment of rationality in the Will to Believe and Other Essays in Popular Philosophy, 1897. Okay. And an empiricist is one who believes in philosophical empiricism. Okay. Y'all, we're gonna go on back over here where we was at now. Cause, we looked up that word and I read so much now I still don't know what it means. But anyway, we can go over here and look up one who believes in philosophical empiricism. Okay, and that is a reliance on direct observation rather than theory. So what that's telling us is, you know how we just celebrate the holidays, whether they're real or not, we still celebrate them. And that's what empiricism focuses on. The reliance on direct observation rather than theory. Know whether it happened or not and trying to prove a theory. But anyway, let's go back. So his works argued for the possibility of scientific knowledge based only upon inductive reasoning and careful observation of events in nature. Most importantly, he argued this could be achieved by use of a skeptical and methodological approach, whereby scientists aim to avoid misleading themselves. While his own practical ideas about such a method, the Baconian method, did not have a long-lasting influence, the general idea of the importance and possibility of a skeptical methodology, details of which are still central in debates about science and methodology today. Bacon was generally neglected at court by Queen Elizabeth, but after the accession of King James in 1603, Bacon was knighted. He was later created, He was later created Baron Verulam in 1618 and Viscount Street Albin in 1621. Because he had no heirs, both titles became extinct upon his death in 1626. At the age of 65 years, Bacon died of pneumonia, with one account by John Aubrey stating that he had contracted the condition while studying the effects of freezing on the preservation of meat. He is buried at St. Michael's Church in St. Albans, Hertfordshire. Okay, we're just going to read a little bit of this. Now, Francis Bacon was born on the 22nd of January, 1561 at York House near the Strand in London, the son of Sir Nicholas Bacon by his second wife, Anne Cook Bacon, the daughter of the noted humanist Anthony Cook. His mother's sister was married to William Cecil I, Baron Burghley, making Burghley Bacon's uncle. Biographers believe that Bacon was educated at home in his early years. Owing to poor health, which would plague him throughout his life, he received tuition from John Walsall, a graduate of Oxford, with a strong leaning toward Puritanism. He entered Trinity College, Cambridge on April 5, 1573 at the age of 12, living for 3 years there, together with his older brother Anthony Bacon under the personal tutelage of Dr. John Whitgift, future Archbishop of Canterbury. Bacon's education was conducted largely in Latin and followed the medieval curriculum. He was also educated at the University of Poitiers. It was at Cambridge that he first met Queen Elizabeth. He first met Queen Elizabeth, who was impressed by his precocious intellect and was accustomed to calling him the young Lord Keeper. His studies brought him to the belief that the methods and results of science as then practiced were erroneous. His reverence for Aristotle conflicted with his rejection of Aristotelian philosophy, which seemed to him barren disputations and wrong in its objectives. On 27th of June 1576, he and Anthony entered the Society Magistrorum at Gray's Inn. A few months later, Francis went abroad with Sir Amyas Paulet, the English ambassador at Paris, while Anthony continued his studies at home. Excuse me. The state of government and society in France under Henry tours Italy and Spain. During his travels, Bacon studied language, statecraft, and civil law while performing routine diplomatic tasks. On at least one occasion, he delivered diplomatic letters to England for Washington, Burghley, and Leicester, as well as for the Queen. The sudden death of his father in February 1579 prompted Bacon to return to England. Sir Nicholas had laid up considerable sum of money to purchase an estate for his younger son, but he died before doing so, and Francis was left with only a fifth of that money. Having borrowed money, Bacon got into debt. To support himself, he took up his residence at law at Gray's Inn in 1579, his income being supplemented by a grant from his mother, Lady Anne of Manor of Marks near Romford in Essex, which generated a rent of $46. Okay. Now, I'm going to read this and I'm going to stop. Bacon stated that he had three goals: to uncover truth, to serve his country, and to serve his church. He sought to further these ends by seeking a prestigious post. In 1580, throughout his uncle, Lord Burghley, he applied for a post at a court that might enable him to pursue a life of learning, but his application failed. For 2 years, he worked quietly at Gray's Inn until he was admitted as an outer barrister in 1582. His parliamentary career began when he was elected MP for Bosnie, Cornwall in a by-election in 1581. Okay, so he ended up in a parliament. I don't understand. Why I wrote his name down. I'm not going to read all this. He ended up staying in debt. All right. Let's look at the pictures and see. This is supposed to be him. Some of this stuff make you think, was he mulatto? Anyway, I don't know why I wrote Francis Bacon name down, but we're just gonna move forward because I have a couple of more things that is written down.
History, when men failed in their discernment of its power, it was transferred to others considered worthy. Its final prophecy, and to witness all mankind under the will of their king.
In the same location, scientists have discovered what appears to be yet another unexplained bottomless.
Y'all know. So let's dig in.
Just as the Judeo-Christian God gave his followers the Ark of the Covenant, which wielded unfathomable power, the God of the ancient mystery religions gave his followers an object whose existence has been kept secret since the Middle Ages, and whose power is also beyond comprehension. Throughout history, when men failed in their discernment of its power, it was transferred to others considered worthy. The secret group in possession of the instrument today will do anything to protect it. They believe their God has chosen them to fulfill its final prophecy and to witness all mankind under the will of their king, known in the Bible as Apollyon. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Eyewitnesses claim to have seen what they describe as angels landing from out of the sky. In the same location, scientists have discovered what appears to be yet another unexplained bottomless pit.
Open the gates, ye ruler. I give command, and I bring them. For behold, the day of the Lord is coming, which cannot be escaped. Forbidden secrets of the labyrinth.
Excuse me. What was happening?
Dead men's secrets, or dead men tell tales. You've probably watched PBS a time or two and seen a special or some kind of a TV documentary, that details, in some regard, some ancient relics, some ancient buildings, like the Great Pyramid of Egypt. And then they'll give you the numbers that go along with it, like this is the most massive building ever built in the history of the world. To this day, as I speak to you today, as you're listening, the Great Pyramid of Cheops is the most massive building. Until about 1935, it was also the tallest building ever built in the world, until the Empire State Building was built back in 1935. The Great Pyramid was the biggest, tallest building in the world. And they'll tell you, some statistics and one thing and another, and then we sit here in awe, and we kind of marvel, because you see, when we go to public school, they tell us that man, years and years ago, was a brute beast evolving from apes, and that we were really pretty dumb, dragging our knuckles on the ground and hitting our women over the head and dragging them off into the cave, And so, if your view of the world, or your world view, is based upon evolution, and then you look at this Great Pyramid out there, this great building, and you listen to these numbers over here, they don't add up. They don't add up. Now, I'm a general contractor, and I build buildings. And when we build a house, and if that house is plus or minus an inch, that's plenty good enough. And when we get them a little out of square, they're 2-3 inches out of square, no big deal. We just cover it up, by dividing the inch or the 3 inches, in half. And then when we put the roofing on, we we fudge a little bit over here at the bottom, and then we fudge a little bit up there at the opposite top, and when you look at it, you can't see it. It's not that big a deal. And that's building a house. Now, the Great Pyramid, to show you how accurate it is, in 1964, they developed, I don't know who it was, but somebody developed what they call a laser transit. And we've had transits, for hundreds of years. An eyepiece, a telescope, in which we could put a man out there in the field, 100, 200, 300, 400 feet out there. We can measure elevations with a stick, and we can measure straight lines and things like that. It's been going on for a long time. So we've been surveying and measuring, for safety. But the accuracy wasn't all that great. And so we've been making maps, for hundreds of years. But the maps, aren't exactly accurate. And so as time progresses along, we've been getting more accurate maps. And so, about 1964, somebody comes up with a new type of transit.
Okay, I don't know how we got over there, so we're just gonna go back. Cut it out. I'm trying to find something for us to dig into. It's not too long. Okay. This is not what I'm looking for, y'all. So the only video we can find on that, y'all don't have to dig on that yourself. So I'm not gonna spend 2 or 3 hours. Here goes something else.
Was already found in 2008, but no findings were ever made public. So that's why I made this video, to share with you guys what we know about this labyrinth and what was found at that time. So the Lost Labyrinth of Egypt was full of hieroglyphs sculpted in endless stone walls and is believed to contain all knowledge of ancient Egypt. The Labyrinth of Egypt has been described by a number of ancient writers, such as Herodotus, Strabo, Diodorus, and Pliny. The origins are unclear, but at the time of Herodotus' visit, it was more than 1300 years old. The legendary complex, named the Labyrinth by ancient Greek, was a legendary complex that is said to be an enormous collective tomb of the 12 kings who built it and a resting place for sacred crocodiles. So yes, crocodiles were very sacred in ancient Egypt, same with cats. Located at Hawara, sorry for butchering those names by the way, About 90 kilometers south of modern Cairo, the complex contains secret chambers, passages, shrines, and tombs. Herodotus wrote the following of the labyrinth in the 5th century BC. It has 12 courts, with gates facing one another, 6 upon the north and 6 upon the south, joining the one to another, and the walls around them are outside. There are only 2 kinds of chambers, the one kind below the ground and the other above these. 3,000 in number, of each kind 1,500. The opposite of chambers we saw ourselves, but the chambers underground we've only heard about. There is a roof made of stone lined the walls, and the walls are covered with figures carved upon them. Each court being surrounded with pillars of white stone fitted together most perfectly, and at the end of the labyrinth, by the corner of it, there is a pyramid of 40 fathoms, upon which large figures are carved, or so he said. It was not clear whether the Egyptian temple was inscribed as a labyrinth simply because it was so huge and so complex that one could easily become lost, or whether it was intentionally designed as a maze for one to find their way through. Ancient Greek historian Sabo, who also claimed to have visited the temple, wrote, "Before the entrances there lie what might be called hidden chambers, which are long and many in number, and have paths running through one another with twists and turns, so that no one can enter or leave any court without a guide." Roman geographer Pomponius Mela described the temple as having innumerable paths which caused great perplexity because of their continual winding. The Roman army commander and philosopher Pliny described the labyrinth as a bewildering maze of paths, adding that not only did individuals who enter the temple have to navigate through a confusing array of ramps, rooms, and stairs, but they were also confronted with a fearful noise of thunder and to pass along the chambers in darkness. The historic location of the labyrinth, as described by these ancient authors, has always been situated by most Egyptologists at Hawara in Egypt. There are several reasons for this, like the described present by Herodotus of the pyramid next to the water canal at the entrance of a nearby lake, called Lake Moeris, and the town Medit el Fayum, which was known as Crocodilopolis, the ancient town of Arizona. Hawara is situated 90 kilometers south of Cairo at the Great Depression of the Fayum Oasis. The location is marked with the pyramid of Ahenemet III, the last king of the 12th dynasty. The lost labyrinth was rediscovered by Belgian and Egyptian archaeologists in 2008. The sand of Hawara was scanned by the Belgian-Egyptian expedition team, and the results indicated that there was something in the sand. The highly significant findings were published in the fall of 2008 in the scientific journal NRIAG, and the results were exchanged in a public lecture at the Ghent University, in presence of the Belgian press. However, it was not long after that the Egyptian Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities put a stop to all communications regarding the findings, due supposedly to Egyptian national security sanctions. Louis, the expedition, had waited 2 years for the Supreme Council to make the findings public, but they didn't. So, after 2 years, he got sick of waiting and he launched his own website, the Labyrinth of Egypt, in order to publicly post the results of this significant research project. For now, all we can do is hope that the findings will be made public and that eventually another expedition can be held to find out more about this forgotten labyrinth and its hidden treasures. And as always, thanks for watching.
Okay, y'all. So, that was that. I didn't want to look this up, but, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And I wrote this name down. Okay, so that's all we had from there. That name was written down. Go here. Yeah. See. Okay. Let's go over here. It's so sad, y'all, but sometimes YouTube is just a better place to look for something. Somebody already has looked it up. So we'll go back and use your social media platform. Search for truth. Let's start here.
What's up, guys? I'm Carly Kloss, and today I'm going to show you how you can build your very own website with...
In this video, we will discuss the Uniform Commercial Code. Together with the common law, the Uniform Commercial Code is one of the primary sources of contract law in the U.S. The Uniform Commercial Code is commonly known as the UCC, and it's actually one of many model laws or uniform laws in the United States. Among other things, Article 2 of the UCC applies to transactions for the sale of goods. So the UCC itself is a model law, so it's not exactly the law. As a model law, it's really a proposal that each state has to choose whether to adopt or not. But the UCC was enormously successful. Pretty much every state has adopted the UCC. Remember, different states can have different laws, but because each state has practically the same version of the UCC, we can expect contract law for the sale of goods to be the same from state to state. That's why you'll see something called the New York Uniform Commercial Code, and you'll see something called the California Uniform Commercial Code. It's just each state's version of the Uniform Commercial Code. By and large, the California Uniform Commercial Code, the New York Uniform Commercial Code, and other states' uniform commercial codes will be the same. So if we have a contract for the sale of goods, and parties from different states, they can be confident that the same law is going to apply. So for purposes of most contract law classes and for bar review classes generally, you should consider the UCC as the source of law governing transactions for the sale of goods, and the common law is probably going to govern everything else: real estate contracts, service contracts, employment insurance, etc. If you'd like to discuss the UCC or any other matter related to U.S. law, stop by my website and blog, and feel free to submit your comments below.
There's a Roman maximum in law that says, "For he that would be deceived, let him." Simply meaning, if you're so ignorant as to be deceived, then that's your business, that's your problem. So you need to do your homework and find out what the words mean, especially in relation to law and government. because there is a whole world of occultism that is operating today in which you use certain words, and when those words are used in a court, they don't mean the same thing at all. Understanding law and the words of law, there are two things that this planet has: water and earth, water and land. Consequently, there are two kinds of law: the law of the land and the law of water. You need to understand the difference. The law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on the land. And so consequently, the law of the land is different in every country. You can do things in America you can't do in Russia. However, there is a higher law that dominates the entire world. It's called the law of the water. The law of water is referred to as the law of money. It doesn't matter what color you are, where you're from, or where you live. Money is money. And anytime you're doing banking or using money, you are now under the law of water, maritime admiralty. If you go back in history where all of this began, back in the land of Canaan, and you probably have heard in the Bible the land of Canaan. The Canaanites were Phoenician bloodline, and in the ancient Phoenician language, Cana meant merchant, banker. The very word merchant comes from mer, M-E-R, for the sea, for water. As in mermaid, we have merchant. Merchant, bankers. Let me give an example of the difference between the law of water and the law of the land. The Statue of Liberty must be put in water. It could not be put on American land as such. It had to be put in the harbor because it's not the Statue of Freedom. It's a Statue of Liberty. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls into port on a ship. He gets liberty. He's not free. So America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're not free or brave, period. And make no mistake, they do not pick words by chance. These words are very serious. Now let me give you an example of how this law of the water works. Why is it that you have to go to court? You go to court because you play basketball and tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Why? That's what it is. It's a racket. When you go into a court, what's the idea of going to court? It's a game, like basketball. The whole idea in a court, one team gets up and they throw the ball over to that team of lawyers. That team gets up and throws the ball back into their court. And the judge is wearing a black robe, so he is the referee. He doesn't care which side wins or loses because he's going to get paid anyway. So he couldn't care less. The judge is a referee between two teams. The judge rules from the bench. The word bench in Latin is a bank. Therefore, the judge rules for the bank. Where do you find banks? You find banks on both sides of a river. They're called river banks. And what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the current. See, consequently, your money is current. See, because it's the flow, the cash flow. I'll give you an example of how this works. When a ship pulls into a harbor, all ships are referred to as female. Why? There's a very good reason. Maritime Admiralty banking law says all ships are female because they're carrying items for money, and so consequently they are under Maritime Admiralty law. Admiralty is where we get the word admiral of the Navy. Let me give you an example of how this works. When a ship pulls into a harbor, it parks at the dock. The captain has to provide for the port authorities a certificate of manifest, because yesterday the ship was not here, but this morning the ship pulled in, so it has manifested. So consequently, all the products have manifested. So each one of those items coming off of that ship has come off of water. And consequently, on a ship, all ships have a captain. The word captain comes from a Latin word capital, money. So the captain represents the money that's on board the ship. And as I said, the captain has to present to the port authorities a certificate of manifest for each and every item. How much does it weigh? What color is it? How many doors does it have? Etc. The ship is sitting in its berth. And wherever a ship sits when it docks is called its berth. Berthing a ship. All the items, as I said, coming off that ship represent money. They came in on water. They are maritime admiralty products. Now, when you were born, your mother's water broke. And when your mother's water broke, you came out. And this is why you have to have a birth certificate. Because you are a maritime admiralty product under international law. Your mother delivered you. This is why if you go to Sears and buy a refrigerator, they will ship it to you. They will deliver it. And that's why you were in your delivery room. Your mother was delivering a product. Maritime admiralty. You came down your mother's birth canal. And once you, and as you're taking one of the televisions or the cars off the ship and it falls down and breaks, that's all right. Sometimes they're stillborn, so consequently you lost money on that one. Therefore, you have to have a death certificate, and it's always signed by the doc. The doc has to sign your birth certificate and your death certificate. All of these words and terms are maritime admiralty banking words. And therefore, if you understand lawyers and judges and courts and government are all under international maritime admiralty law. All religions, all churches in the world operate under maritime law. This is why all churches are divided into denominations, like 20s and 50s and 100s. This is why they're called denominations, because all churches are nothing more than the product of maritime admiralty banking. It's an extraordinary story of occult treason, high treason and crimes against the state. Make no mistake about it. The concept of human, spiritual, intellectual, and physical freedom never, ever existed on the earth. Think about this. When cowboys in Indian movies, when the cowboys would ride into town, they were wearing guns. How come they could walk into a bar carrying guns? And if two guys got in an argument, they could go out on the street and draw on each other in front of the sheriff's office, and the sheriff would do nothing. The reason why is because before 1868, all Americans were considered sovereigns. In 1868, there was a corporation founded. They referred to it as the United States Corporation. And they stipulated that anybody who would be a member of that corporation or work for that corporation would be called not an employee, but a citizen. So today, if you are asked, are you a citizen of the United States? What you think you're being asked is, are you lawfully in this country to do business? They didn't ask if you were in America lawfully. They asked you a specific question. Are you, of your own volition, out of your own mouth, testifying that you are a citizen of the United States? Because in that way, citizen of the United States means you are an employee of a foreign corporation operating on international maritime law. So today, the President of the United States is the President of a privately owned company. The company is called United States. And the word president is always a word that is used in corporate law. Banks have presidents. All companies have presidents. So there's a corporation called United States, privately owned, and it has a president. Privately owned, out of England. And you need to understand words and terms. Because I believe that there is a divine presence in the universe that men call God. And one day that divine presence is going to move on the earth and we're going to see freedom come back to this world. And when it does, you're going to need to understand words and terms and how they have been used to trick you. These words have been used to enslave you.
Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Y'all can go back over and check that out. He just explained a whole lot. I don't get it, but the more we look into it, the more we find out.
At Life Storage, we know your personal belongings aren't just things.
I love making interesting videos. The most interesting topics are often exceptions, deviations from the norm. All of us live in countries where there are laws and rules and governing bodies telling us what we can and can't do. But 70% of the world is ocean, where there are no countries, no governing bodies to tell us what's right and wrong. That's why maritime law exists. Let's start with a hypothetical. A baby is born on a cruise ship sailing in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. What nationality does it take? This is the coast of some fictional place in some fictional country governed by some fictional government. From this line, which is the water line at the lowest low tide, every country is allowed 12 miles of territorial waters. It used to be 3 miles, the distance a cannon could shoot offshore, but that has since changed. Those 12 miles are the property of a country. They can do pretty much whatever they please in it, and all domestic laws apply. Foreign ships are, however, sometimes allowed to enter into these waters under the principle of innocent passage. If ships have an innocent purpose, which does not include fishing, polluting, weapons practice, or spying, they are allowed to pass through the territorial waters of a foreign nation without permission, as long as they do so quickly and without stopping on shore. Beyond the territorial waters, there's another 12 miles of the contiguous zone. This zone allows a country to enforce laws as long as they fall into one of 4 categories. If the laws have to do with customs, taxation, immigration, or pollution, they can be enforced in the contiguous zone. Beyond the contiguous waters is the exclusive economic zone, also known as the EEZ. This zone extends 200 nautical miles from shore. Beyond the territorial waters, the EEZ is in international waters. However, only the country who holds the exclusive economic zone has the right to harvest natural resources in the area. This law was originally set up to help with disputes over fishing rights, but has since been incredibly useful with the boom in oil drilling. All these laws do, however, occasionally cause some disputes due to overlapping zones. This is the South China Sea, an incredibly important waterway. Nearly 1/3 of the world's shipping traffic passes through it, and it reportedly has huge untapped oil reserves. China has this land, so it says it has all this water. Malaysia has this land, so it says it has all this water. Vietnam has this land, so it says it has all this water. Brunei has this land, so it says it has all this water. The Philippines has this land, so it says it has all this water. When 2 countries are less than 400 nautical miles away from each other, it's up to them to decide where their respective economic zones end. Most solve it civilly by separating the zones at the equidistant point from each of their shores. However, when the stakes are so high, such as in the South China Sea, countries can be a bit less cordial. So, our cruise ship, baby. Let's change the hypothetical and say that the cruise ship was sailing in U.S. territorial waters, less than 12 miles away from shore. Every ocean-going vessel is required to be registered in some country. You'll notice that most large cruise ships are registered in tiny, faraway countries. Panama, a nation with fewer people than Minneapolis, holds the registration of 1/4 of the world's ships because taxes and labor are low. When a ship is in international waters, the laws of the country of registration apply. A ship registered in Amsterdam could legally have prostitution and marijuana on board, as long as they got rid of the drugs and shut down the brothels before sailing into territorial waters. Once a ship is in the territorial waters of a country, the onboard laws switch to that of the country the ship is physically in. This is the same for nationality law. Kinda. A baby born on a Dutch ship within 12 miles of the U.S. is a baby born in America. Since the U.S. is one of the 30 countries that unconditionally grant citizenship to any baby born within the country, a baby born in U.S. territorial waters is lucky enough to receive the world's 8th most powerful passport. There are 2 exceptions to this rule. Foreign diplomats visiting or living in the U.S. with a diplomatic passport are not subject to the laws of the U.S. or any other nation other than their own. Consequently, the babies of foreign diplomats do not automatically receive American citizenship. Additionally, the babies of individuals staging a hostile invasion or occupation of American territory are not granted American citizenship upon birth. Here's where things get even more confusing. Even though a ship in international waters is an extension of the territory of the nation it's registered in law-wise, the rules for nationality are different. The United Nations Treaty on the Reduction of Statelessness, which is followed by some countries, says that a baby born in international waters should just take the nationality of their parents. Most of the world's countries use this principle of bloodline to determine if a baby should get citizenship, rather than whether or not a baby was born in the country. However, there are some countries that won't give citizenship to a baby born outside the country. In that case, the baby would take the citizenship of the country in which the ship was registered. Alright, that's enough with babies. There's a long history of exploiting maritime laws. During Prohibition, U.S. ships started to change their registration to Panama and other foreign countries so they could serve alcohol in international waters. In the mid-century, casino boats left from many cities where gambling was illegal to partake in legal gambling in international waters. In 2005, entrepreneur Roger Green started Seacode, a company that planned to evade U.S. labor laws by placing an old cruise ship 12 miles off the coast of California. They would bring in foreign coders and house them in this ship, where they would not have to abide by U.S. wage laws or go through the difficult visa application process. The idea never came to fruition, but the technical legality of it just shows how convoluted maritime law is. The laws for airplanes are pretty much the same. Technically, once an airplane has taken off, the laws of the country of registration apply. The only law that applies and differs among countries is the drinking age. A British Airways flight from New York to London can serve alcohol to 18-year-olds. However, in most cases, airlines choose to follow the laws of the origin country. Spacecraft also follow very similar laws, and luckily, I have a whole other video just about space law. Make sure to check it out here. You can also click here to subscribe to Wendover Productions and follow me on Twitter at WendoverPro. Please also be sure to check out...
Okay. Peace and power to everybody. And
I love making interesting videos. The most interesting topics are often exceptions, deviations from the norm. All of us...
Thank you. Peace and power to everybody. Thank you for sticking around if you're still here. Just looked up a couple of things that I have been meaning to look up. I looked them up with the company of you. So thank you for checking out this information with me. Peace and power to you. I'm out of here.